Hello, and welcome to The Nature of Healing, a podcast in time that is all about exploring the many facets of healing. I'm your host, Jen Shepard, and I'm excited to be here today with you as we dive into the world of healing. This podcast is produced by Bolts of Love. And at The Nature of Healing, we believe that healing is not just a process, but a movement, a recognition of love in any situation, whether it be physical, emotional, spiritual, or mental. Each episode is a chat on another way to approach healing for ourselves and our communities. So sit back, relax, and join us as we explore the nature of healing together. Hello, today I had a question come in from one of the readers of this site. Thank you so much for sending in your questions. It's an honor, truly an honor, to be a place where you guys would like to discuss and move and grow and talk philosophy and what happens and what ifs and how do we relate to our world and our universe. So the question is, in your opinion, do we choose our parents, our partners, jobs, and life experiences before we're born? So I'll just say that this is a huge question. And I appreciate that we started with in your opinion. In a series that I recently finished, and there's also another series posted called the Mediumship Lecture Series, I ended last night's talk with some thoughts around perspective and how we can keep growing and healing and merging and integrating into more encompassing perspectives. Essentially, we first allow our blinders to come off, and then we move outside our proverbial box. If you can imagine that we're all in boxes of perspective, and sometimes in our boxes of perspective we actually have blinders as well, and we only can see certain ways when we look through our box. Even if we put our head out, we still have a blinders on. So essentially, we first allow the blinders to come off, and then we move outside our proverbial box, and we realize that outside the box just isn't quite enough to witness a closer perspective of the truth. So we climb on top of the box. And then from that vantage point, we see people that are still inside their boxes. We see people inside their boxes with their blinders on. We see other people that have taken off their blinders and have moved outside a little bit from their box. They're starting to mill about. Maybe they're crawling outside. Maybe they're starting to stand up, and then maybe they're willing to move around their box. You catch a glimpse of somebody, though, way off in the distance that is on top of their box. And tilting your head ever so slightly toward the sky, you see way off someone who has taken their box apart and reassembled it in a way that they have a vantage point higher than anyone. And then off the corner of your eye, another quadrant off in the distance, you see somebody really moving around, stepping from box to box. And then someone that is precisely where you want to be. A person that is higher and also that finds a way to step from place to place while being just a little bit higher so they can see a little bit further. And then again, you see something else. And you need to turn around to try to witness what's happening. But it seems as if someone has created wings from their box and their blinders, and they're soaring. And they see above all the boxes and all the various states of all the people and all the configurations of boxes below. Now, all of this is to say that we have our own vantage point, and we express from our own vantage point to the best of our ability. And that expression may change as we start to be comfortable with and figure out how to gain more perspective and take on the integration of what we hear from others. What works for us and our lived experience, what works for us and our language and our culture. What are we willing to sit with and research and have conversations about and take on aspects of and merge with that we already have? What parts of us are we willing to say no longer work for us and let it go in favor of something new that we find is working for us? And if we have done the work right, maybe we've come into a more authentic perspective. This question has the tones of perspectives of life contracts and life lessons. It's also a question about whether the relationship between our individualized self and any planning may have had any other individualized consciousness before incarnating as human, as ourselves. I have a friend who has memories of a pre-birth experience, and he remembers what he calls a guide, helping him figure out what would best be for his individualized self to grow into the wisdom and the more experience of the guide that he was really saying, wow, that's amazing. Your light is so cool. I want to have some of that. So I love my friend's perspective here. And I really, really love the work that he's able to do in sharing the love of creation and bringing people into that fold of non-fear and love of creation. He has a light around him that just keeps shining brighter and brighter and brighter. The more he's willing to share his perspective and his integration into the love that that perspective brings for him. I also have used his version, his visualization of what he calls a flow chart of life as the metaphor for myself, for me to wrap my heart around questions like, how much did the soul of me, Jen, have a say in a plan that has transpired into the experience that I've had as Jen for the last 54 plus years? I have to be honest that I don't share my friend's complete interpretation of his experience, but I also didn't have his experience. So, however, it does bring up the question of what it really means for me to be Jen. This question pops up for me occasionally when I experience what one may call déjà vu. You know, the feeling that you've been here, done that before, or you know what's going to happen next, or you just feel so connected to the moment. And I often think of that as some other aspect of myself. Either it's my future self, recognizing what it has done in the past, or its past self, recognizing what it might do in the future. Again, that's supposing this human linear timeline for lives. Somehow, though, there is an awareness that I'm in the moment of that being, that something or someone or some other aspect of self is also recognizing as being. Now, I understand the universe, especially its non-physical aspects, to be more fluid and complicated. And I'm going to use a phrase from Doctor Who here, but it's like a ball of wibbly wobbly, timey-wimey stuff. Way more than we perceive in our world, in our boxes, with our blinders and our timelines. So consider that this physical self was born or created from what was at some point only non-physical consciousness. So at some point, there was only non-physical consciousness. At some point, that non-physical consciousness felt or needed or wanted more understanding. And in that instance, there was breath. And there was life beyond, including the thought and the beingness that was already present before the breath. And in that breath, perspectives were born. Now, having perspective is the only way to have more than what is already present. So whether we're saying creation, spirit, divinity, universe, has perspectives beyond our ability to count. Each particle, the sun, the moon, planets, rocks, snails, trees, and humans offer perspective. So those of us reading and contemplating the question of soul contracts, are the human perspective of the divine, of the universe. And we have 7 billion plus perspectives of humans that we know of roaming the earth. So my relationship, just as some kind of example here, my relationship with my former mother-in-law has always been tenuous. So during my husband's illness, our relationship was hideous. And after his death, it was just downright awful. And there's been a softening now. It's been years. So we have made some move to healing our relationship. And I was told, though, in the midst of it being really just gnarly, and I was told by really well-meaning people, that my mother-in-law had decided on some level to be the person who caused me to really struggle with that type of relationship. That she actually signed on to be my bad guy so that I could learn something. Now, I took on that idea for about a year, maybe a little longer. It did allow me to have some extra compassion for her, thinking that, because of her soul love for me, she was being a pain in the butt, or that our relationship was not, very wonderful and bright and loving. But really, after a spell, I don't know that anybody in their right mind would sign on for some of the difficulties she had in her life, and that culminated, in the death of her son, to be some part of divine plan to help me have a lesson. I don't know. That just doesn't settle well. I'm like, really? Now, and I have to be honest, I was in that perspective box for a little while once I heard it, but it just doesn't settle now. I don't believe that, knowing what I know about her life and her struggles and some of the types of abuse and decisions she had to make, all that so she could, be my lesson. I understand now that it was a way for just her to be her and her experience. And the parts that I see and the parts that I totally recognize, I'm recognizing. She is in that mirror space reflecting back, but I choose what to see in the mirror. I choose what parts I want to be upset with, ignore, try to smooth out. I don't know that Jen, me, had any type of existence that was really Jen before my parents conceived and then decided to bring that conception to birth. So within this whole ocean of the universe, there are many, many, many aspects of knowing and feeling and believing and being. All the individualized perspectives, talents, and expressions can come together to form another level of consciousness. Now, I often joke, but the longer I live, I find it might be more true, that those aspects would like to understand what it means to be conscious, what it means to be the one, and what healing, otherwise known as love, is all about. And the elements that came together that pulled Jen together, the specific talents and drives and curiosity and way of gathering information from existence, that is me. I also feel a wish, a drawing, and a need to understand what patience is and how that works in the loving. And I often see patience, aspects of patience, lack of patience, seeing patience, that version of loving throughout many scenarios of my life, and maybe how I choose or hadn't chose at one time to take on as an aspect of loving. So all of those things, coupled with my parents' choices, provided me with an opportunity for a physical expression in my current life. And we all live in an if-then flowchart, a huge, complicated one that's filled with many connecting dots in many ways and many people and many situations and human history on top of it and human understanding. And any computer programmer will tell you that moving just one semicolon and the whole dynamic of how the program runs change. We are never, ever, ever victims of the process of life. We are the process of life. Maybe we are the ones that moved the semicolon. Nothing else. We are the universe made manifest through its desire to move beyond simply being and into loving. And loving is only possible through choices and awareness, coupled with understanding how those choices unfold. And we are a very tiny and hugely significant part of that process. We have the same choice to be in this life or engage with it. Are we just going to be in it, or are we going to engage with it? Do we choose to take authentic action to fix what we may have broken, or take care of ourselves by washing, dancing, or making plans with a friend? Do we choose to step into, at least for me, patience and perseverance and integration of our and my unlimitedness with what we are enthusiastic about in this life? Do we move forward, create connections, and care for each other's physical well-being? Do we bring meaning into our lives through awareness, creativity, and self-expression? Do we allow the space for others to do the same? Or do we try to close their boxes and keep them in that space? The alternative is to decide that we are experiencing some type of contract and have no choice but to be confused and heavy-hearted and disconnected, angry and ill and annoyed and helpless in our life circumstances. Now, all of those things we may feel anyway because we're human, and it's okay to feel those things. But then the choice becomes, do we stay in the feeling of those things? Or do we move toward that creating of connections and awareness? Do things like confusion and heavy-heartedness make us say, what's that about? And where do I fit there? And how do I bring meaning to that in my life? Life is not a lesson. It's an experience. And whatever the experience has, the threads and the opportunity for the universe to move into the one universe. Whatever the experience has, those threads and opportunity are for the universe to move into the one universe. We need to share this with the one, the movement of breath and discovery. Because we are that. We are already that. And in the oneness, we move the oneness towards more recognition. All aspects of the oneness, all the different perspectives that are out there. When we're willing to engage in the experience, the rest of the perspective have access to that through maybe their own déjà vu little moments. My time as Jen is a result of the universe, the divine universe, offering opportunity of expression and choices around the talents and personalities that came together as me. Yes, I'm Jen. I'm here and now. I'm writing this essay. I'm talking about the essay that I wrote. And yet I'm so much more connected to the infinite that first breathed and allowed my Jen perspective to be a reality. And maybe I even understand in this moment. It's hard for me to stay in the box of contract when the feeling that I have is soaring and shifting and being the physical Jen and the non-physical awareness, moving the experience the best it can into the one with a capital O for all of us to share in the knowledge that the experience brings, the experience that each of us bring, the experience that all aspects of creation bring. Lots to think about. Thank you so much for sending in your question and allowing me to form this process of contemplation with you. And don't be afraid to send in more. That is really what this is all about, is us exploring and discussing and being and moving and sharing together. And not just trying to move towards the one, but knowing that we are the one, moving as the breath and the discovery within the one. Thank you. Take care.
The gentle breeze whispers secrets to the leaves. The sunlight weaves patterns through the forest canopy. Roots entwine a silent symphony of unity. In this sacred dance we find our place in eternity. One heart, one pulse resonating through time. The rhythm of existence, a cosmic rhyme. Healing melodies flow from the depths within love's harmonious embrace, where healing begins. Mountains hum ancient mantras to the sky. Streams carry memories of stars long gone by. In every note, a thread connecting you and me. The music of existence, a universal symphony. Resonating through time, the rhythm of existence, a cosmic rhyme. Healing melodies flow from the depths within love's harmonious embrace, where healing As the sun kisses the horizon, day and night entwine, we are stardust, boundless and divine. In this music we find solace, a sacred art. For the nature of healing is love, and love is our heart. As the sun kisses the horizon, day and night entwine, we are stardust, boundless and divine. In this music, we find solace, a sacred art. For the nature of healing is love, and love is our heart.